I think we see that all the time with legends of the game about to break a record or about to enter a club. We just saw it this last week with Clayton Kershaw in baseball, headed for the 3,000 strikeouts. We usually, as a card shop, for about 2 to 3 weeks before a record gets broken, see so much movement on the player. You know, stuff that had been stagnant then all of a sudden moves, because I think people want to be part of the moment, right? We as humans want to be part of history. And so having that card in that moment, you know, being able to hold like a Utah hockey card the year that the team came here, I think is so powerful.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Overtime Cards podcast. I'm Tate.
I'm Dawson.
And we're here with Chauncey and Tanner. And today we are going to be talking about, just the players that have popped off in kind of any sport. We're going to be covering a lot of variety in this podcast, but make sure you guys first hit that subscribe button, hit the like button when you see this podcast, and go follow our Instagram at Overtime Cards to see what all the cool rips that come on in the shop, especially here at the Rip Desk. And we just hit a 101 today, so go follow that out. You see content like that, and there's a lot of cool stuff that is constantly ripped in the shop. So we're going to get started with talking about the players and their card markets and why they are where they are right now and how they've went from pretty much 0 to 100. And Tanner, I'll let you start off first because I know we're going to start right into baseball because that's in the thick of their season right now.
Yeah, I know we've kind of gone over this and talked all season with people because baseball, it seemed like coming into the year, there wasn't a ton of guys that, people were hyped up about when Series 1 came out a few months ago. And people were like, who are we even chasing in this set? And in all honesty, I couldn't even tell you remember who
James
in Series
Wood,
1 was? Okay, James Wood was that guy.
Dylan Cruz, Rhett Lauder were our big three, which is
okay.
When you look at last year with the Jacksons and Ellie, Skeens in the update, it's tough to follow that one up.
It's been cool. People have been coming in looking for baseball cards. Seems like baseball cards never go out of season. There's people who are just diehard fans of teams and keep coming in looking for their guys and wondering who to chase this year, who's going to be a new up and coming rookie who's got a chance at turning into something. So it's been cool, coming into the year. Like I said, it didn't seem like there were many guys people were really hyped up about, but I think now looking back 3 months, there's a few guys it seems like are starting to turn into something and, might have a shot. Yeah, there's a handful of guys. Chauncey's guy, James Wood.
Chauncey's not a big fan of James Wood, and I'm not sure why, but I guess
we had a great conversation off air. I want to continue it just a little bit.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't say he's not a superstar yet, but he definitely I think he will be, and I think Dawson agrees with me, will be a superstar.
So I think that there's something that we need to consider here that the guys tend to ignore. And the big one is that sometimes the performance on the field does not equate to the value in the card market. And I think James Wood is a perfect example of that. James Wood has had a great first half, right? Over 20 home runs, hitting 270. James Wood's card market is not there compared to other players. James Wood has not had the huge increase that we expect from a rookie. Take Elly De La Cruz last year. Ellie's cards went up, 600+% on some of the high end stuff on things basically in his first week of being in the bigs. That did not happen with James Wood. That did not happen with Dylan Cruz. So I think for me, there is a discrepancy there with the player performance on the field versus the actual value in the card market. There are players whose performances on the field have absolutely sent them into the stratosphere this year. I think having a weak rookie class, in my opinion, in terms of collectability, has led to a huge opening for other players. You look at Pete Crow Armstrong with the Cubs, who at the beginning of the season during spring training, we as a shop, we were passing on his cards. We were not buying high-end Pete Crow Armstrong. Now we can't keep him in shop. We've had several multiple $100 autographs sell in the last week because he's so popular, because he's been playing well. My guy in Seattle, Cal Raleigh, another example of that. Hit more home runs in the first half than any other catcher ever. His market has gone from literally non-existent to huge overnight. And so I think that that's something you always have to consider as well. If the performance on the field does not always equate. And I think a big part of that is in the modern era, we've had really good rookie classes in the past couple of years. And this year, the rookie class just isn't there. And your primary chase in Series 2 is Roki Sasaki, and he's hurt. And we don't know what's happening with him. We don't know if he's going to pitch again this year. So for me, I think especially with James Wood and Dylan Cruz, you have to take into account the sellability, the marketability of them. I think the Nationals is a really good team to focus on in that. So first and foremost, baseball is such a regional sport. We do not have anything that does regional like baseball does. Like when I lived in Western Washington, Mariners cards sold for double comps, right? Because we were right by it. We were in Seattle. People wanted that. Down here, I'm buying Mariners cards at under comps because people just don't want them down here. So I think you have to take that into account, especially with the Nationals, especially with superstars who have left. Look at Juan Soto. Look at Bryce Harper. Look at Steven Strasburg. Look at the Contrerases. We can just keep going on guys who have been
You mean
in the
Scherzer? Max Scherzer?
Scherzer.
Strasburg didn't leave.
Strasburg got hurt.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say he didn't.
when you talk about like card industry, Strasburg went from a ton of money to zero value.
Yeah.
And so I think that hurts James Wood, Dylan Cruz right now. People don't want to buy Nationals. People are seeing Nationals players leave after their first initial contracts are up. And so I think while those guys on the field may look a lot different than where their card values
I
are.
agree with that because I think with their ownership hasn't proved that they're willing to pay their players what they deserve, and their record inflicts that especially when they made that World Series run when they won it. It like they had no shot. I think they had like 1.1% chance to make the playoffs in May, and that's where they are right now. I'm not saying that they're going to go on a World Series run. I don't think they are at all. But James Woods' market, I totally agree, Chauncey. It's not where it should be based off what the numbers he's putting up. But that's because it doesn't really matter what sport. You guys can debate that if you'd like. If you winning cures almost all. And they went on a 13-game losing streak. And
Ouch.
Dylan Cruz hasn't played well at all this year.
Dude,
And
he's
he
been on-
keeps getting hurt
Yeah,
too.
dude.
Injuries have been a problem.
That doesn't help. But when he was healthy, he wasn't putting up good numbers like the prospect that he's been talked up to be. So I think that goes along with your case with the card market not being there. But your team's got to be good as well. But you have to put up the numbers yourselves.
I do want to ask, like, what do you think James Wood has to do, or what do the Nationals have to do to make you like not necessarily believe in him, but like believe that his card value could go up?
I mean, I think that any card can go up, right? And that's the fun in baseball is if somebody has a crazy week, their card goes up. As much as you guys are going to hate this as Nationals fans, I think for him to see a true boost in value, he either needs to leave or he needs to be in the conversation of top 5 players in baseball. I think we can actually take a perfect example. I'm seeing him on the TV right now, Juan Soto, right? When Juan Soto was a National, his cards were going crazy. People were buying him. People were picking him up. Soto moved so many different teams right now. We have a hard time selling him in shop. We sell his high-end stuff. Everybody's still collecting Soto, but
Before they sorry to cut you off
No,
because
please do.
I'm not as tapped into baseball as you are. Before they made, let's just say in May when they had a 0.1% chance, how was Juan Soto's cards doing before the World Series run and then after that? Were they pretty similar? Obviously, they're going to skyrocket when they win the World
Yeah.
Series, but
so you're going to get a skyrocket on a run like that. But I would say comparatively, his market was a lot higher at that point than it is now, even with the subsequent World Series win.
Are you just saying now in compared to Juan Soto, or comparing to James Wood with Juan Soto where they were? Both.
Either.
Okay.
So Soto's market's way down because Mets fans are a little, I think, gun shy on his performance this year. Yankees fans won't touch him because they're mad.
Just ask Frank
Padres-
the Tank. He on Barstool Sports. He's a perfect example of how Mets fans act on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, for any audience members who have not heard or seen Frank the Tank, I think that's the perfect example of how Mets fans are feeling about Juan Soto.
He's
right
on
now.
Barstool Sports, and go check him out if you want. He's a funny dude. Infamous, bites the glasses, bites anything in sight when he's nervous, and the Mets won't win another game. And it's just hilarious to watch. But I bring that up because I feel like that's a good representation of Mets fans.
But I think it's accurate. And I think baseball, more than anything, fans collect their guys, right? And so if a guy burns you as a fan, or on a grander scale, if an organization burns you as a fan, you're a lot less likely to buy those cards, right? Or if we look at the Nationals, like Brady House is a great example. Great prospect. Everybody was chasing him 3 or 4 years ago. Nobody's touching him these days. The Nationals didn't develop him. Right. With Washington, there's always a fear they get traded. There's always a fear they get moved. There's not the stability in there. So I don't think like average baseball collectors invest in other teams in the same way that like your average football collector will still buy Jaden Daniels, will still buy Bo Nix. It doesn't quite happen in baseball on the same scale, I think. It still happens, but not on the same level.
So you think if James Wood at the end of his rookie contract with the Nationals, he signs a 10-year, $400 million contract with the Nationals, you just think he's cooked?
I mean, I think his card market won't develop in the way that we want it to, right? You guys were talking superstar. If we're talking baseball superstars, that's 5 to 10 guys, right? So if we're talking that, we need him to be on the back end, probably at like a Bryce Harper level. But on the front end, we need him to be at like an Ohtani.
In his career right now, where his careers are, where the comparison to Juan Soto and Bryce Harper, he's right there, and he has better stats than when they were in this position right now.
He had more home runs than Harper and Soto when their first 162 games, and he still has like 3 games left until he hits 162.
Yep. And I think you can always cherry pick stats in baseball, right?
Yeah.
It's always easy to fit it to yours.
In any sport, not just
in any
baseball.
sport. I think baseball makes it easier because there's so many games, right? You
Right.
can boil down a hard sample. I'm a loser Mariners fan. We can do it. If you take the Mariners' last 162 games, they've got like 98 wins. They're a playoff team. That team's made the playoffs like twice in my conscious lifetime. So I think in baseball, it's a little easier to do that. But I do agree. I think his stats are right there. I think if you go back in the last several years, his stats are right on par with Julio Rodriguez his rookie year, right? And Julio was the wonder darling of the industry. Everybody was chasing him in 2022. Julio had a little more hype. Julio had a little less prospect fatigue. I think with James Wood, he's been around for a while. I think he's not shiny. He loves to hit the ball the other way. He loves to work a walk. He takes pitches. He's not the 3 true outcomes type of guy, right? He's not just trying to crank home runs or strike out. So I think that that's part of it as well, as the industry likes those guys. We like power hitters. It goes back to the 90s. Chicks dig the long ball, right? And we as collectors, we dig the long ball. We like home run hitters. That's why we collect Judge and Ohtani so fiercely, I think, as an industry. And so I think when you're not hitting 500-foot home runs to the pull side, you're hitting lasers to the other side, it doesn't spark as much enthusiasm in fans. I think that that's part of it as well.
You brought up, teams that don't really have a good following. And that brings up an interesting team this year because the Oakland/Sacramento Athletics, up until this season, feels like no one's ever wanted A's cards. They pull an A's card and they're like, throw this in the garbage, basically, But this season, that's kind of turned around,
You're not wrong.
And even though you don't see Athletics fans around, there's so many players on that team right now, that are performing, that are playing well. And
what are they called? Are they the Oakland Athletics, the Sacramento Athletics, or the Las Vegas Athletics?
They're moving
I think
to
it's
Las
still
Vegas.
Oakland.
It's
aren't
still
they?
Oakland.
Yeah.
The Oakland A's. Yep.
They just don't play in their stadium anymore.
No, they play in a stadium the same size as the Bees.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, good
Go
thing they're
A's.
moving to Vegas.
But funny enough, I think the A's have 2 of the most coveted young guys right
Nick
now.
Kurtz and
Jacob Wilson. Yep. 2
Plus
guys.
they have 5 other guys on the team who are under 25 and could have all-star potential in their careers. And,
And I think that's a perfect time to relocate and gain a possibly new fan base in Nevada, and then Utah too, with not having, a major league team.
Mhm.
But the Athletics, especially Jacob Wilson, could be on the rise for sure with the relocation, because that's happened for so many other organizations, not just in hockey too, with the Golden Knights having a Stanley Cup run. Hopefully Utah gets their own share of the MLB here soon.
Yeah, and I think it's cool to see a team like Oakland actually start to do something and pan out, because they've just hit 5 guys in a row that are the guys that could be their position player for the next 5 to 10 seasons. And, they've had Tyler Soderstrom, who started the year off strong, and he was kind of leading in the home run race for the first month of the season, and he's still done decent. He's just one of their pieces for the future, I think. So it's going back to the Nationals. It's I think if guys pan out for them, they could be that team in the next 5 seasons. If all the guys pan out and have good stats, if the whole team meshes well together, they could easily turn things around in the next 5 years. So Chauncey brought up the parity of baseball and how almost any season you can go into a year and you can kind of guess, okay, Dodgers are probably a playoff team. Yankees are a playoff team.
Do we want to go into hockey? Want to go into hockey?
Yeah, we can go right over to hockey, because I know that's kind of been a topic around the shop. And even nationally, it feels like hockey seems like it's starting to gain steam across the country. Just more people are, who are just sports fans in general, seems like are looking at hockey as an exciting sport. And there's so many players in that coming up right now that Connor Bedard, who's, his stuff has just been hot for the last year and a half since his season started. But yeah, there's so many guys right now. And even locally here in Utah, hockey went from nothing last year. we used to have a little bit of fans coming in for Las Vegas Golden Knights stuff and
Yeah.
just players here and there. But
just
this
had the
season
NHL draft
especially,
too,
like,
huh?
yeah, everything has gotten popular. Utah especially, but even just hockey in general is a huge untapped market for sports cards. So
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge hockey guy, but Connor Bedard still does good. I know he was he was the number 1 overall pick last year, correct?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So he was,
Cool.
and even kind of this year, I think your number 1 pick was a guy named Will Smith, but he plays for San Jose, and his stuff has been super popular this year. He's another like 18 or 19-year-old prospect coming up, and he could be. I mean,
Younger than
he
us.
played solid this year, and his stuff is very sought after in this year's rookie product.
We also had a good run on Alexander Ovechkin as he broke the goal
Yeah.
record. That was a
Go
fun.
Capitals, baby.
Yep. We he's always a popular one. You know, he's
Yeah.
just one of those guys, one of the legends of the game. But we had a run. It was probably starting, what would you say, about a month before he broke the record, where we were having a hard time keeping
Oh, yeah.
anything low end, high
Well,
end
he
dollar
was going to
cards.
break it. Like
Yep, and
the kind of year he had to start off, it was, I guess it was just destiny for him to break it this year.
Yep.
But because he's getting up there in age, so it's
Yeah.
Ovi might retire anytime, and I'm pretty sure he said he's gonna come back for another year. But
he said he didn't want to retire for a while. If I'm
Yeah.
and-
which
and
is-
guy just loves
Yeah.
skating.
Hockey.
He just loves skating. So it's
Well, and
he loves shooting pucks.
I think we see that all the time with legends of the game about to break a record or about to enter a club. We just saw it this last week with Clayton Kershaw in baseball, headed for the 3,000 strikeouts. We usually, as a card shop, for about 2 to 3 weeks before a record gets broken, see so much movement on the player. You know, stuff that had been stagnant then all of a sudden moves, because I think people want to be part of the moment, right? We as humans want to be part of history. And so having that card in that moment, you know, being able to
Especially-
hold like a Utah hockey card the year that the team came here, I think is so powerful. And I think it's part of
Right.
the reason we
Oh,
collect.
for sure, and especially when you're breaking that kind of record that not a lot of people thought would ever be broken.
Yep.
And Ovi obviously being one of, if not the best goal scorer ever in the NHL. Of course, you'd want to be a part of that. It doesn't matter who he's on. If you're in company with Wayne Gretzky, your card's gonna sell.
Yeah.
Like
Yep, exactly.
no matter what card shop, how small or little the card shop is, if you have that product, he's gonna sell. Went out fast in our shop, especially.
Yep. And then locally, like Tanner said, the Utah Hockey Club has been awesome.
Oh
Utah
yeah,
Mammoth.
it's been
Tusk up, baby.
Yes, I guess they are now the Mammoth. The Utah Hockey Club to me just changed things when they came here. Tanner was touching on it, but we did have, you know, and I think cases are a perfect example. When I started last September, our hockey was on one shelf in one case about this big. We now have a full shelf in the or a full case in the shop dedicated to hockey. And we really started to see that, gosh, probably 3 weeks to a month into the Utah Hockey Club season there. So I think have seen a huge one. And then recently in the last couple months, we've started to get actual Utah uniforms there. So as before they were still in their Phoenix stuff. And we saw such a huge change when it went to the Utah stuff of just, we now have people who've never collected hockey before coming to grab them. So I think anything in the local uniforms does so well. And that's been a huge, huge boost
And
for
I
us
can
for
attest
hockey.
to that personally. Like hockey was just never, I'm not going to say never a thing, but never something that was a topic constantly, like weekly, I'd even say in the shop. Well, obviously when you bring an NHL team to your state, that's going to flow more, but it kind of just felt like you didn't know that was the missing piece to a huge fan base and the rally around them. And having Liam O'Brien here, we got to interview him. He's spicy tuna, such a cool dude. And being able to have those kind of opportunities and have Logan Cooley's, Dylan Gunther's jerseys, all of these artwork back there is just so cool to see. And it's like a perfect example, having that little little half case going to a full display case. Like that's the transition we made. And that I think it's really cool. The NHL community has been awesome for the Utah Mammoth. Did you guys want to talk about like the draft or just players that are hot right now?
Yeah, pretty much talk about the draft because like it's been kind of interesting with basketball and football comparing the two because like last year in 2023, you had like two amazing classes that people were hyped about. Basketball, you had Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller. The Jazz had Keontae George here. You had, 5 or 10 guys, Derek Lively for Dallas, that were all awesome. And people were chasing the cards and kind of still are chasing those cards. Football had Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, these guys that last year were awesome. It's kind of transitioned a little bit this year in terms of popularity because football, it seems like, has kept the same path. You have all these awesome quarterbacks who could be their franchise quarterback, could be franchise players going
6
forward.
quarterbacks taken in the top 12 could all pan out, which we never really see.
Yeah, it's so crazy seeing that because we've just had a run on quarterbacks like over the last 5 years. Like almost every team has got a quarterback who has potential to be something, even going to Will Levis last year. Like I know he hasn't really played the best, but he had the chance to be the
Exactly.
best. And there's still that question out there. We'll see if he gets another shot and plays with him.
Obviously, Jaden Daniels, we've talked about Jaden Daniels plenty on the podcast, but his market is just crazy. Even for maybe it might be a little more crazy for me being a Commanders fan, was seeing someone from my team after we leave Dan Snyder be just so expensive. Like we have that checkerboard right here, black and white checkerboard, and just be so much money. And it's just insane to see not just Jaden Daniels' market be huge, but Bo Nix as well.
Well, I see what you're saying. I think something that we have to talk about in football is the amount of value that is put on positions, right? We value quarterbacks so much higher than any other position in any sport. We just pay a premium for quarterbacks. And like Tanner was saying, we have had potentially 9 or 10 franchise quarterbacks emerge in the last 2 or 3 seasons. And so I think when you have something like that, it is fun. It drives the market. We are in like this primo going from the Breeze, Brady, Manning era into this next era with your Rodgers, your Russell Wilsons, these guys, and then into this newest era of this mobile quarterback who can throw the ball. I think that we love seeing these guys, and then we collect quarterbacks as a hobby. Quarterbacks do so well. You can look at it last year, and I think a couple hot players we need to talk about are guys who were super hot when they were rookies, and then we forgot about them. I think Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, great examples of this. We as a hobby we were giving away Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. We were putting rookie cards in a dollar bin. Autographs were going under triple digits. Like we were selling those guys so inexpensive. Then they found competent organizations. They found teams that develop quarterbacks. They found really high quality receivers. They found organizations. And those guys' markets have gone way up in the last year. And so they have caused people, I think, to hold on to these quarterbacks that struggle a little bit. I'm thinking like Bryce Young's a great example where last season, at the start of the season in Carolina, was not great. He struggled. Then all of a sudden he picked it up at the end, started playing better. This year they got him another weapon in Tet. I think that he is one that's going to make a big jump. I think that we see quarterbacks always make a jump. And so in a product where you have, 6 quarterbacks in the top 12 picks last year? When you see a product where you have that in every product, you're going to have 6 quarterbacks that are worth a chase. Everybody's chasing their guy. You have the whole market go up. And I think this year, the 2025 class, no disrespect to Cam Ward, but he is like the most unsung first overall quarterback I've seen since I've been collecting cards. Like the hobby just isn't as excited about him as they have been about previous. They were more
excited about a quarterback that went in the 6th round, Shedeur Sanders.
And that's really tough, but you're right. Shedeur had all the focus, especially in the hobby. People were buying Shedeur like crazy before the draft. People weren't really buying Cam Ward, even though we all kind of knew he was going number 1. So I think that looking forward and forecasting to the next year, I think that this previous rookie class is going to continue to grow. I think Jaden, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, all these guys are going to continue to just expand. And as long as they play well, there will be a growing market for them. And I think in a world where, you're looking at Jackson Dart as he was the second quarterback off the board, right?
He was the second one.
Yeah. So when you drop from Cam Ward to Jackson Dart versus the 6 guys we had in the first round last year, I do think that the hobby's going to stay a little bit more focused on the 2024 class instead of the 25 class.
Yeah, and I think Anthony Richardson, because of what Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield have went through with Sam Darnold's resurgence of his career, going to Minnesota and then gets paid in Seattle, people got to remember Anthony Richardson played 1 year of college football at Florida, and he has not panned out in the NFL right now, but he has a vet quarterback in there with Daniel Jones that he's playing with. And he might get shipped off after this year or after they'll probably pick up his 5th year option, I would assume. But that's definitely a player you want to hold on to and maybe buy him if you really do believe in the Colts. So I think that is a guy that could be the modern day Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. And then it kind of feels like Jordan Love. It just sucks that he went to the Packers, but it's awesome that he went to the Packers because he's a great quarterback. but that's a guy that is on the upbringing and people are investing in his rookie class too. And that's kind of, obviously you can't chase him anymore unless you buy that very expensive product from that rookie class. But I think the NFL market's spoiled right now. It also kind of stems off last year's, but I think the NBA market can get spoiled here in this year's draft class. If you guys want to touch on that.
It's been so funny, and I'd almost compare it to the Victor Wembanyama year, because I remember distinctly Victor Wembanyama played a game a year before he got drafted down in Vegas. They were playing against Scoot Henderson in kind of an exhibition game, and people came in, I remember that week, looking for Victor Wembanyama cards. And this was easily a year before they even made a single card of Wembanyama. He just had all this hype behind him that, people love the guy. He's become the face of the Spurs. And I'd really compare Cooper Flagg to that, because I remember a year ago, people were like, oh, he just graduated. He's going to Duke. Where can I get his cards? When can I get his cards? And we're still, now they've finally started to release some of his college stuff. So we're getting those, but rookie cards, we're maybe a few months out from those, but sure. Once those hit the market, it's going to be hotcakes right there. When Wembanyama autographs came out, they were minimum a couple $1,000s. Cooper Flagg seems like is a lot less than that right now, but I do think he's a lot more popular. He'll have more people getting into his cards just because, people can relate to him kind of. They know the name Cooper Flagg and everything. So
Tanner and Chauncey, thank you guys for coming on the podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe, click that like button. And, it's just right down there, like Dawson likes to say.
Yeah, just make sure it says subscribed.
Turn on the post notifications and then follow our Instagram at Overtime Cards. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Thanks for having us, you guys.